The New York Giants have officially announced that Jaxson Dart will be their starter in week 4, and this is a situation that I was entirely wrong about. You see, let's break down the circumstances here. The New York Giants coming to this year, they had a little bit of a quarterback controversy. On one hand, you had the veteran in Russell Wilson, who at this point we know he is removed from his Seattle days. He's not that same Russ, but we saw some good signs from him last year. Overall, he was pretty productive over in Pittsburgh. And then on the other hand, you have the young, up and coming rookie who was drafted in the first round, and somebody who you would think, with his skill set and the abilities that he has, would be pretty pro ready from week 1. And the team as a whole, they weren't really expecting to go anywhere far. So there was a big question of, do you go with the veteran and let Jaxson Dart sit behind him, or do you just put Dart out there? For the Giants, they of course decided to have Russell Wilson lead the way to start off this season. And even after week 1 was not a pretty performance. His completion percentage was in the 40s. Even after that, I was saying, hey, it's okay. I still believe in the Giants' vision, but maybe I trusted it more than I should have. Week 2, it looked great, but by the end of that game, it was constantly turnover, and no matter how great Russ looked, he was the reason they were in that game, but he was also the reason they lost that game. And then week 3, it was another bad showing. 56% of his passes were completed, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And so overall, looking through Russell Wilson's first 3 weeks, you have 2 bad games and one really good game that was messed up by a costly turnover by the end of it. That's not a great track record. And I think in week 3, the one straw that really broke the camel's back was the performance of Malik Neighbors. He had 2 receptions for 13 yards. And let's think about Neighbors for a second. This is your franchise wide receiver, somebody you expect to be there for a decade plus, somebody you expect to be productive for a decade plus, somebody you can build your franchise around as your cornerstone at that wide receiver spot. So to have Russell Wilson barely be able to consistently and effectively get him the ball, as we saw in week 3, that's not what you want. And given that he's still so young, given that he's still developing, why not have him develop alongside a young quarterback as well so they can gel and develop chemistry? And so I think that performance of Malik Neighbors was what ultimately pushed the Giants over the edge, and now they're starting Jaxson Dart. So that is your situation. Veteran quarterback versus a young, potentially pro-ready guy. And it's a question of patience in his development and trust in the organization to properly allow Wilson to mentor Jaxson Dart as that bridge QB, as someone to pass his knowledge along. Do you trust the Giants to do that? Or do you just put Jaxson Dart out there? And now they're putting Dart in. He's going to be there week 4. I was wrong. I was on the side of trust. But maybe I misjudged that a little bit. You see, the thing I always do when I talk about patience and when developing a quarterback, there's 2 examples I usually like to bring up. I like to bring up Patrick Mahomes sitting behind Alex Smith for 1 year. In the way that Mahomes, his first season actually playing, 50 touchdowns. Not just one of the best debut seasons we've ever seen, one of the best seasons we've ever seen from a quarterback in NFL history. In the way that he sat behind Alex Smith, who was never the best in the league, far from it, but he was a veteran with a sound mind for the game, and that allowed this guy with all the talent in the world to sit behind him for a year to learn from a good mind and utilize both his talent and the knowledge that he acquired to make an instant impact. And then I also point to Jordan Love, which obviously that's to a lesser extent, but he sat behind Aaron Rodgers for 3 years. In his first season, especially in that second half, he looked really good. And I still have a lot of hope in the potential of Jordan Love. So I always point to those 2 examples. But when you have a young quarterback, everybody is different. You have to look at it as a case by case basis. And that's where I was wrong. There is not a one-size-fits-all solution to developing an NFL quarterback. It's different based on the athlete. It's different based on the organization. It's different based on the mentor. There are many, many factors that go into it. You see, Patrick Mahomes, he went into a very well-run organization. He went into the coaching tree of Andy Reid. He went into a solid veteran quarterback who knows just how to get the job done in Alex Smith, and he obviously has all the talent. Then you go to Jordan Love. He is sitting behind one of the most talented quarterbacks we have ever seen. He is going to, in my opinion, one of the most well-run organizations in the NFL. The Packers are so interesting to me because it's publicly owned. And so with that, you've got a lot of input. You have a big community aspect to it. And I think that's a good environment to grow and develop in. And then Matt LaFleur coming from the Sean McVay coaching tree, that surely helps as well. I believe McVay is a really smart coach. That was a great situation for Jordan Love. But then you get to Jaxson Dart and the Giants. And this is where you kind of see why you've got to look at it case by case. And in this scenario, the Giants are not known for being one of the better run organizations. Far from it. I mean, just recently, we're seeing guys like Daniel Jones, Xavier McKinney, Saquon Barkley. As soon as they leave the Giants, man, all of a sudden they're going off and they're having great years. Daniel Jones looks really good as a Colt right now. Saquon Barkley, his first year with the Eagles, 2,000 yards. And Xavier McKinney, he's already racking up interceptions. They're doing great outside of the Giants organization. And that's not to say that's entirely the Giants' fault. However, what it is saying is this organization does not always maximize their players. And that's on everybody, you know? It's not simply, oh, it's the coach's fault. It's not only the GM's fault. It's not just the player's fault. It's everybody. But they don't always maximize their talent. And so you go into the organization, you go into that franchise, you don't have the same trust and stability there that you would like the Chiefs, that you would like the Packers. And then the head coach. I think Brian Dable can catch a lot of flack just based off the Giants' recent success. I also don't think he's had a lot to work with. But I also would firmly, of course, place Andy Reid well above him. Andy Reid, one of the great coaches of our time. And then for Matt LaFleur, coming from that McVay coaching tree, that's huge. And I think he's a really good head coach as well that I would place above Dable. So the organization and the franchise you're coming into, it's not as great as Green Bay or Kansas City. And then you get to the mentor in Russell Wilson. This is somebody who, in my opinion, I don't know that he was firmly focused on being a mentor. And that's not a knock on Russell Wilson's character whatsoever. This is a Walter Payton Man of the Year award winner. This is somebody who is vocally Christian. And no matter your standpoint on that, that is somebody at least who is going to be vocal about his beliefs. And so all that is to say, I think Russell Wilson is a good person. So that's not that is not an attack on his character. That is all I am saying is that Russell Wilson, in my opinion, I think he still believes that he has it in him to be a starting quarterback. We saw it in week 2. We saw it over with the Steelers. He has his flaws, yes. But to come from the highs that he was in over in Seattle, he firmly believes still that he is a starting quarterback. So when that's happening, you're going to be fully involved in that quarterback battle. You're not going to be fully focused on being a mentor to Jaxson Dart because you're going to be focused on your own spot as well, you know? That's just natural. When somebody's coming for your spot, you're going to be defensive about it just a little bit. It might be your responsibility to mentor this guy, but you're still competing. You're still trying to be that starting NFL quarterback. You still want that position. So, you know, his brain was not 100% on being a mentor, and that's okay. So the organization, not as well run as the prior to the quarterback, not as bought in as an Alex Smith, who knew that, you know, Mahomes, he's going to come in, he's going to be the guy sooner rather than later. For Aaron Rodgers, I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think you had signs that maybe he could have won it out, but that, of course, kind of was the straw that broke the camel's back, to which he was not going to be the long-term guy that Jordan Love, they were going to build towards the future with him. I think he was kind of half in, half out. But for Russell Wilson, I think he was kind of all in to being that starter. And so between the organization and the mentor, I think that's the difference here. And why it didn't quite pan out the way that I thought it would. And I was wrong about the Jaxson Dart situation, about being patient, because it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. There's a lot of nuance that goes into it, and you got to look at it case by case. But then we get to Jaxson Dart himself. How is he going to fare in week 4? How is he going to fare beyond that? Is it the right move to start him? And I think based off what we've seen from the Giants this year, early on in the year, before the year started, I would probably say no. But right now, I think yes. I think you go with Jaxson Dart because what we've seen from the Giants early on has not been pretty. And so with that, you might as well prioritize your hopeful franchise quarterback's development. Russell Wilson's still going to be there to watch film with him on the bench, to go over plays, discuss it with him, discuss what he would have done with his veteran mind. And now for Jaxson Dart, he's going to get real time reps. The Giants, they're 0-3. You might as well build towards the future. You're not building towards anything this season, so project long term. And Malik Neighbors, especially, I brought him up earlier. In week 3, it was not pretty. 2 receptions, 13 yards. This is somebody you hope is going to be your franchise wide receiver. And you've also now got your hopeful franchise quarterback. So why not allow them to develop together, to gel and develop chemistry together on the field? Because if this is going to be your answer, your quarterback, your wide receiver duo for years to come, you might as well get them in there immediately, get them developing, and maybe in year 2, they're going to look even greater. So I was wrong about the Jaxson Dart situation. I was wrong about the Giants situation. I believed in them having patience. I believed that that was the right move. But now I think we're going to see. They're testing the waters now. They're putting Jaxson Dart in there. They have not had a pretty start to the year. So now they're going to be fully bought into Dart, having him develop, just have a developmental year for him in real time. We'll see how it goes. But it's worth the risk, I think. Russell Wilson, I still think he's the kind of guy he's going to help. And now, especially if Dart is going to solidify that number 1 spot, say he has a great week 4, and it's against the Chargers, so we'll see. Let's say Jaxson Dart solidifies himself as the starter this year. I think that's really going to key in Russell Wilson to where if he's not fighting in that quarterback battle to be the number 1 guy, that's going to allow him to focus all of his efforts on being a mentor. And I think that would be huge. I think that would be not 1 foot out the door, not 1 foot in, but instead be fully focused on being that mentor. I think that could be great. And so overall, we'll see how it goes. But now Jaxson Dart is going to be your week 4 starter for the Giants. And this is, no matter which way it goes, it's going to be a turning point in his career. But for Jaxson Dart and the Giants, they're hoping that this is a massively positive turning point. One where we can look back and say that Jaxson Dart's rookie year was the start of something special.